So I was at Cannes Film Festival in France and I saw some pretty cool movies there. Let's talk about them. The first one I saw was Leave No Trace by Deborah Granick. This is the same director as Winter's Bone from 2010, which I enjoyed. This film also stars Ben Foster, who I think is an incredibly underrated actor. Needless to say, he did a great job as usual, but unfortunately what really drags the film down is its story. This is one of those movies that I feel would have been more appropriate as a short film, because man, does the story ever drag on. The film sets up the relationship between Ben Foster and his daughter pretty quickly, and then it doesn't really do anything with it. Much of the film is just incredibly repetitive. It's the kind of movie that will have you thinking things like, yeah, I get it, you already explained this, can we move on? There's plenty of really interesting things they could have done with the story and their relationship, but unfortunately everything kind of just slowed down to a halt, which is unfortunate because what they initially set up is pretty interesting. They just didn't really do much with it. At one point later in the film, a new conflict is introduced, but as soon as it starts to happen, you already know everything that will come of it, and it really takes its sweet-ass time to do that. The movie was decently shot, and there were a couple shots in the forest that looked pretty interesting, but overall the movie was just kind of underwhelming. It was well presented for the most part, but it didn't really have much to work with story-wise. The only aspect to this film that really stands out is Ben Foster's performance. So yeah, go check this one out if you want, but don't really rush to see it, I guess. And I'm giving this one a 5 out of 10. Another film I saw at Cannes was a South Korean film called Burning, which I thoroughly enjoyed. This is from acclaimed South Korean director Chang Dong-lee, and it also stars Steven Yeun from The Walking Dead. And as soon as he showed up in the film, it was a little jarring because I'd only ever heard him speak English before, but it wasn't long before that feeling subsided and I was really able to get into his character. I was legitimately impressed with Steven Yeun's performance in this. Not only was the character interesting and unlike anything I've ever seen him play, but there were several opportunities in the film for him to show off more subtle aspects of performance. There's a shot where the main character looks at him from across the room while they're in a bar, and Steven Yeun's character yawns and then reacts to the main character's eye contact. And without him even saying a word, the way he reacts is just so natural and perfect. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you see it, but it was one of those moments in a performance where I felt, holy crap, this is real. And throughout the rest of this film, he really transforms into this character. The two other prominent actors in this film also do a fantastic job. I'm not used to seeing them in anything else, so I don't really have anything to compare it to in terms of character transformation, but all of the acting in this movie was pretty stellar. Each of the characters were strange and interesting, but not so strange that they weren't believable. There were some aspects to the main character that almost felt like a South Korean cinema trope in a way, but regardless, he was a very fun character to watch. And with his type of character being the one that we experience the film through, it really adds a lot to the movie. This film was also very well shot. Not only did it look great aesthetically, but there are so many shots in this film that are just expertly coordinated, and they're not done in any kind of way where the film's essentially showing off what it's capable of, but for people with an understanding of what would need to be coordinated for those shots to appear the way that they do, it is incredibly impressive, and there are many instances like that in the film. The music in the film was also great. There was a healthy variety of tones that it helped accentuate very well. I really wish I could talk about the plot, but this is one of those movies that I feel would be best experienced going in blind, because as someone who went into it not really knowing anything about it, the experience of watching the story grow and develop from one scene to another was incredibly valuable to me. From the beginning of the film, I had no fucking idea what it would turn into. So if you're at all interested in seeing this movie, then try not to look up too much about it, I guess. I really loved this film, and I'll be seeing it again as soon as it's available. Who knows when? It'll probably show up at Toronto Film Festival or Vancouver Film Festival. So check this one out as soon as you can, and I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10.